What's up, Video 4 Nation? I'm Magic Bard, and for today I'm going to show you guys some basic techniques you can use by using the 3D camera tracker in After Effects. Very powerful tool. I'm going to show you some cool little things that you guys can use, practical effects and some visual effects of maybe augmented reality or hyper reality effects that you can put into your videos. So without further ado, I want to give a couple of shout outs to Testa Films and Arno. Really appreciate the love, guys. Thanks a lot. And if you're new to Video 4, hit that subscribe button. Hit the little bell icon right next to it, so that way you'll be notified whenever we have a new tutorial every single week. With that being said, let's jump into the tutorial. Okay guys, so we're going to jump in and I'm going to show you a couple of use cases for this 3D tracking and really how simple it is to do. So let's dive into it. So we'll create this little like augmented reality stuff on the ground we have here. Throw up a caddy text sign in the air right next to the Cadillac. Now I'll show you how to blur that license plate. So let's dive into it. So first you're going to take your footage that you need to track, drag it into a new composition. Okay, so now this is it with nothing on it. Now really it's this simple. All you have to do is go into your effects and presets panel, type in camera, and we're going to use the 3D camera tracker. So just drag it on to your footage and then let it analyze the whole piece of footage and find all the points and that kind of stuff. So you can see it go frame by frame over here, and what I'm going to do is just fast forward through this. Okay, cool. So now we've got everything tracked, and you can see as you move the mouse around, you can see various different points you could use to create null objects, solid layers, text layers, and that kind of stuff. So I would say the first thing we want to try out is blurring out this license plate right here. So we want to find a plane that is on this license plate. So what I can do is find a plane that looks good, which is probably around here. Or another thing I could do is select 3 points. Okay, now if I select these 3 points that are on the plate, it doesn't look like they are on the plane that I want to use. So I'm going to try this one right here, and what you're going to do is right click once you find what you want to use, and then you're going to create a camera, and for this one we're going to create a solid. Okay, so now we have a camera in here, a 3D tracked camera, which will help tell this solid where to be in 3D space. So as you can see, as I drag forward, that solid stays in place. Now what we want to do is size it up to our license plate. So let's just start to size it down and create that rectangular license plate that we want. And then whenever you move, okay, so once you create these solids, text layers, and that kind of stuff in 3D space, you don't just want to pick it up and start to move it, because now it's no longer tracked on that area and it'll just mess it all up. So what you want to do is use your X, Y, and Z axis points to move it in the precise location that you need it in. Alright, so I'm gonna throw it in right about here. Looks pretty good to me. Here, hold on, let me move it over and let's see if that looks good. Okay, that's on the plate, and cool. So that looks good. We need to move it over to the left a bit and maybe make it a little bit bigger. Okay, now let's see what we got. Okay, so now we're covering the plate, but I don't want this color because it's really sticking out. What I want is the plate blurred. So what we're going to do is duplicate our car layer. So Command D to duplicate that, put it right under your solid layer, and then we can delete the 3D camera tracker on that layer. And then what we want to do is toggle our switches so we can see our track mats and our modes, and click on our where it says none under your track mat and hit alpha mat. Okay, so now it looks like our solid went away, but really what happened is it just made a nice little matte cutout of our license plate. So now what we can do is just blur the layer. So throw on a fast blur and turn it up, and there you go. You've got a blurred license plate. So now the edges are really harsh, right? And what we want is to blur those edges as well. So with your tracked solid layer selected, throw on a fast blur there, turn that up, and that will blur the edges of the solid, so then you don't have that really fine edge. So let's turn it up a more, and cool. So that looks good. Now that's how you guys can track objects by using the 3D tracker and blur things out. Okay, so maybe you want to blur out a sign or a license plate and that kind of stuff. Boom, we've got that one done. So next thing we want to do is let's create those augmented reality arrows on the ground that are kind of telling you which way to walk. So what I'm going to do is I have these arrows, construction arrows that I got offline, and you can make whatever arrow you want, or you can use a PNG image. So we're going to create a new composition, and I'll go with a height of 1920 and a width of 1080, and then we'll just call this our hyper reality arrows. Okay, and then let's throw on one of those arrows onto here. Okay, cool. So we've got that. I want to turn this 90 degrees, so I'm gonna hit W to open up my rotation and make it so it's going up and down. I'm gonna throw it down here on the bottom, and then what I'm gonna do is do a little animation with this. So let's press P to open up our position, keyframe that, and drag it out maybe 20 frames, and let's push the position of the y-axis up. Okay, so it's gonna move like that. Cool. Now what I want to do is select both of those keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistance. Sorry if you guys can't see that. Hold on, let me see if I can drag this up, and there you go. Keyframe assistance, ease. Okay, cool. I'm gonna drag this back down and then hit our little graph editor right here so that we can see our keyframes, and we can zoom in here by pressing the plus sign. And now what we're going to do is create that action where it speeds up here and then slows down at the end. So we're going to create this sort of exponential curve by dragging these handlebars and creating a curve that looks like this. Okay, so it's going to speed up right here, go really fast, and then slow down at the end. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to come over here, press N on my keyboard, and then preview this to show you. Alright, cool. So it speeds up and slows down. I like that action. That looks good to me. Now what we need to do is fade it out. So hold down Shift and press T on your keyboard so we can open up that opacity, and then we'll hit the keyframe for that as well. And let's drag that out to about the beginning, but not the same starting point, and then drop this down to 0. Okay? So now what we're going to have is, let's preview that. Okay, cool. So we've got the basic animation of how we want our arrows to move. Now all we have to do is trim this layer down to here. So with your layer selected, hold down the Option or Alt key on your keyboard and hit the end bracket key. Okay, that's the one that looks like this right here. Okay, so hit that key, and that's how you can shorten up your clips. Alright, so we've got that. Now let's duplicate a couple times. So hit Command D maybe 3 times, and then let's offset these layers. So we'll drag them out and start them right about when the other one is ending. So maybe about right here, 3 frames in. Okay, let's try that, and just go 3 frames in every time. Let me just open this up. So 1, 2, 3. One more, and then the same thing over here. Cool. Now let's stretch that out and RAM preview it to see what we got. And cool, that looks good to me. And now what I want to do is create this same action up here as well. So now all I have to do is select all of them, Command D, drag them up on the top. Okay, all these layers. And we're going to go to Layer, New, Null Object, and we're going to connect these top layers to the null. So let's just hit this pick whip tool and connect it to the null. Okay, you're going to let go on that null, and you'll see that they're parented to our null too. Now what we can do is move the position of the null up. So press P, and then with your Y axis, just click and drag it until your arrows are where you want them to be. So let's see, maybe a little higher. Okay, cool. And then once again, we can offset those as well just a bit so that they're not all at the same time. Like that. And then we will drag this out and right click, trim comp to work area, and boom, you have just made your caution arrows. I like that. So now let's go back to our composition. And let me just close these example compositions for now. I'll leave this one open. Okay, cool. So we've got our, now we need to find a point on the ground, okay, a tract, a 3D tract point that we're going to put these arrows on. So we're going to select our 3D camera tracker and find one of these points on the ground. So let's see if any of them appear, which is all right about here, and these all look really good. I like them. Now another way you can select points is click drag, and you can see that all these points are being selected, right? So now that'll create a nice little plane for you. If you don't like that, just do it again. Click drag, okay? And there we go. So let's see if we can get a good one here. Maybe this one. I like that. So I'm just gonna right click and then hit create solid. Okay, so we're gonna create another solid, and now let's move it in the direction of our arrows, the direction we want our arrows to move. Always want to check to see if that solid looks like it's on there, and to me it looks good enough. If it doesn't look good for you, try a different area of points, but we'll work with this for this tutorial. So now what I want to do is size this up. So I'm gonna hit W and rotate the Z axis to about here, and then hit V so I get my pointer tool and stretch this out. Okay, that looks good to me like that. Now what we're going to do is take our arrows composition, let's see where that is, hyper reality arrows, and you're going to drag it right on top of your tract solid 1, but you're going to hold down the option or alt key and let go. Okay, and what that's going to do is replace that solid with the arrows that we just created, this arrow composition. And then boom, guys, we've got some pretty nice arrows. Now, you know, it ends before our clip ends, so what we're going to do is Command D, duplicate it, and add it over here. So now what we've got is the arrows still going. Cool. Okay, so I don't want black arrows, I want yellow ones. So I'm going to go into my effects and presets, type in fill, and we're going to drag a fill onto there. And let's just make it yellow. Make it whatever color you want. Okay, cool. And now what I'm also going to do is select that fill, Command C, okay, and copy it, or Control C if you're on Windows, and then Control V or Command V to paste it onto our other arrow layer. The other thing I want to do to sort of blend these guys in is select both of my arrow layers and go to my modes and go to overlay. And now it looks like it's kind of right there on the ground, kind of being projected on there, like a augmented reality visual would look like, I think. I haven't used Google Glasses, so I wouldn't know that, but that would be a logical guess, I'd say. Now, what we also want to do is add a little spice to this arrow animation that we created. So let's go to our effects and presets and type in this effect called echo and kind of watch what this does. So I'm going to drag this echo on this first arrow layer, and what it'll do is kind of, it'll create a echo of the arrow animation, and you can kind of see it as the arrows lag into the animation. And you can mess with these settings to get the exact echo that you want. You can turn up the echoes, so maybe you want 4 instead of 1, and then what you'll get is just a bunch of arrows. Okay, you see that? So I'm good with 1 right now. Just go with the basic arrow effect, and we want to get this one done as fast as possible. So let's Command C that and Command V or Control V on our other arrow layer. Okay, cool. So now we've made our arrows. Next step, we want to add a text effect into our 3D tract space and put it right above our Cadillac. So you guessed it, we're gonna click on our 3D tract layer and select our 3D camera tracker so we can see all these points, and we want a plane that's about right here and perfectly created. Cool, so now we've got our text layer. Let's mess with the parameters of this text. So I'm gonna take off and go down to 0 because I don't want make sure that your text is selected. I don't want a border on it. So go to 0, and we can size it down as well. It's a little big. And then, name it whatever you want. So I'm going to throw in a caddy. Okay, cool. And I can even drop down the size of this. All right, cool. And let's kind of get in there. And you can see how it's really magically stuck on there. This is a really great tool that After Effects has included in their program, or Adobe has included into After Effects. So that looks good right about there. Now maybe I want actually before we get into creating a shadow, let's add some stuff to this. So type in gradient and we'll throw on a 4-color gradient, and drag your gradient points a little closer to the text. And I won't even mess with the colors because I like the colors. So I'm going to turn down this blend and turn up the jitter. Okay, and that looks good to me. Now I want a black outline over this. So what I'm going to do is Command D this caddy, and on this bottom layer caddy, we can call this our caddy border. I'm going to delete the 4-color gradient and go to our character window, select black, the border's black as well, that's good, and then turn this up until we get a nice outline. 3? No, 3's too much. 2. Alright, we'll go with 2. 2's fine. And there you go, now you've got a border. Actually, 2 is too much as well, 1.5. Make sure it's selected when you do that, so one more time, 1.5. Okay, good. I like that. Now what we want to do is create a shadow. So let's take this top layer caddy, duplicate that, and we'll call this one our caddy shadow. And let's kind of zoom in here. And I'm going to hit the W key and rotate this caddy shadow on its x-axis, okay? And that's how we're going to create this shadow. Now, but actually, before I do that, I'm going to Command Z to undo that. I'm going to drop it down onto the car, maybe about right there, and then W and rotate it on the x-axis, okay? Now make sure when you rotate it that you see how the rotation tool on my mouse turns into an X. That's right when you're on the x-axis, okay? So that's what we want right there. Let's see what that looks like. That doesn't look like it's on the trunk of the car, so let's fix that. Maybe go like that, and I'm gonna hit V and move it on the y-axis over here, move it back down on the z-axis to about there. Let's see what that looks like. And you can scrub to really make sure everything is stuck in the place and it looks somewhat real, right? I don't like what's going on with this border, so I'm going to throw it into Z space, maybe a couple of pixels, okay? So then we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so that looks good to me. Now what you want to do is make this shadow black, right? It's a dark shadow. So we're going to throw on or you can just right there change the color of the text to black. Usually I just throw on a fill effect, but this is another fast way to do it. Okay, and then when you have a shadow, it's almost always blurry. So we're going to throw on a nice little fast blur and turn that up to maybe 5 or 6 pixels. And then we'll turn down the opacity to maybe 50%, maybe 65. Okay, so that looks good. Let's see how that kind of plays out. Cool, I can work with that. Now what you want to do is fairly simple. We need to mask out this fin so that the shadow doesn't come on top of the fin, which is what it looks like it's happening now. So very simply, take our layer that we tracked, Command D, okay, so now we have two of them, and drag that up on top of the shadow layer, and then we can delete that 3D camera tracker on this layer as well, and we'll just call this the caddy fin matte. And now you want to create that mask. So use the pen tool to create a mask on this fin. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in here to look at it, make sure I kind of get it just about, you know, I'm going pretty fast for the sake of this tutorial, but you know, you guys can really finesse it and get the exact look that you want. And here we go. This is pretty good to me. Boom. And now you can see how it's working there. What I would also do is hit MM and feather it a bit, maybe 4 pixels. Okay, because the camera is moving fast. And what you're going to want to do is keyframe that mask, and then every other frame or so, move that mask around, and just make sure, you know, click somewhere and then move these points around. Of course, After Effects makes this purple, so it's hard to see. If that ever happens to you, just click on the mask color, and then you could change the color. So maybe like a green. Okay. There we go. Now we can see it. Now it's popping. And then just move your mask points around. This will become tedious, of course, but this will also look really cool and add to the realism when you add these masks. So I'm going to actually fast forward this as well. And but you get the point. Basically what you're going to do is keyframe this whole mask until everything is, or looks right. And boom, guys, that is the effect. We're pretty much done. That's a quick introduction to the basic how you can use the 3D camera tracker to create some cool effects, and, you know, really add some practical stuff like blurring out signs or license plates, adding text into a scene, or even adding like augmented reality type stuff that you may have seen on Facebook or Instagram that people have done. Alright guys, so I hope this tutorial helped you out. If it did, leave us a like and let us know in the comments if there's any visual effects that you guys would like to learn. Maybe there's an effect in After Effects you want to know more about, and I'll try and address those as soon as possible. We've got a lot of cool tutorials coming out within the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned, stay subscribed, like and subscribe, have fun, and we'll help you become an epic visual effects artist. With that being said, this is Video Fort. I'm Magic Bard, and I'll see you guys on the next one.